What if I told you a strip of water so narrow you could almost see the other side has the power to crash the entire global economy in days? Welcome to the Strait of Hormuz. At first glance, it doesn't look like much, just a thin passage of water between a few countries in the Middle East. But this is not just any waterway. This is the single most important energy choke point on the planet. So where exactly is it? Take a look at the Arabian Peninsula. On one side, you have the Red Sea, linking the region to the Mediterranean through the Suez Canal, one of the busiest trade routes on Earth. On the other side, the Arabian Sea flows into the Gulf of Oman, and then into the Persian Gulf. And right here, squeezed between Iran, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates, lies this narrow bottleneck, the Strait of Hormuz. Now here's where things get serious. Every single day, roughly 20 to 21 million barrels of oil pass through this tiny corridor. That's not a small number. That's about 1/5 of the world's total daily oil consumption. To put that into perspective, each barrel contains about 159 liters of oil. That means over 3 billion liters of energy move through this strait every single day. That's the equivalent of filling more than 1,200 Olympic-sized swimming pools daily. And it's not just oil. Around 1/3 of all seaborne oil on Earth travels through here, along with roughly 20 to 25% of global liquefied natural gas trade. Let that sink in. A single disruption here doesn't just affect one country, it sends shockwaves across the entire global economy. And here's the real problem. This entire system depends on a waterway that, at its narrowest point, is only about 33 kilometers wide. And that's exactly why the Strait of Hormuz isn't just important, it's dangerous. Now here's where things get even more intense. At its narrowest point, the Strait of Hormuz is only about 33 to 39 kilometers wide. That might sound manageable until you realize something critical. Ships don't get to use all of it. Because of heavy traffic and safety rules, tankers are forced into strict, narrow shipping lanes, essentially invisible highways on the water. And these lanes are shockingly tight. In fact, each direction of traffic is only about 2 to 3 kilometers wide. So imagine this, some of the largest ships ever built, massive, very large crude carriers, and even bigger, ultra-large crude carriers, each carrying millions of barrels of oil, are forced to move through a corridor barely wider than a small city. It's less like sailing and more like threading a needle. But it gets even more complicated. A tanker leaving the Persian Gulf doesn't just sail straight out. It has to follow a very specific path, almost like a carefully choreographed route through politically sensitive waters. First, it enters a shipping lane that runs through Iranian territorial waters. Then, it passes near a group of strategically important islands, controlled by Iran, but still claimed by the United Arab Emirates. Right away, you're not just dealing with geography anymore, you're dealing with geopolitics. Next, the tanker must cross into Omani waters, navigating the absolute narrowest section of the strait, and only after that does it finally reach the open waters of the Gulf of Oman. Now here's something most people don't realize. A lot of people assume this oil is heading west, toward Europe. But in reality, the opposite is true. Today, roughly 70 to 75% of the oil passing through the Strait of Hormuz flows east, toward Asia. And most of it goes to just a handful of countries: China, India, Japan, South Korea, and Singapore. In other words, this tiny strip of water is directly feeding the energy demands of the world's fastest growing economies. And the journey doesn't even end here. To reach East Asia, these tankers usually have to pass through yet another critical choke point, the Strait of Malacca. Another narrow corridor, another potential bottleneck, another place where everything could go wrong. And when you start connecting these choke points together, you begin to see the bigger picture. The global energy system isn't just fragile, it's balanced on a series of narrow, vulnerable passages. So here's the uncomfortable reality. The Strait of Hormuz isn't just narrow, it's politically fragile. Because the entire waterway sits within the territorial reach of surrounding countries, any incident here isn't just a local problem. It has the potential to disrupt global trade, almost instantly. And this isn't just theory. In recent years, there have been multiple incidents involving oil tankers, naval forces, and drone surveillance in and around the Gulf of Oman, right at the entrance of the strait. Each time something happens here, global markets react within hours. oil prices spike, shipping costs surge, and governments start paying very close attention. Now think about the scale of what's at risk. Today, around 20 million barrels of oil per day still pass through this corridor. So what happens if that flow suddenly stops? Even a partial disruption could send shockwaves across the global economy, affecting everything from fuel prices to food supply chains. Countries that rely heavily on imported energy would feel it almost immediately, and countries that depend on oil exports, they would lose billions just as fast. So naturally, the question becomes, can this choke point be bypassed? The answer is barely. Only a few countries have managed to build alternatives. Saudi Arabia, for example, operates the East-West pipeline, which can transport oil from the Persian Gulf to the Red Sea, avoiding the strait entirely. Today, its capacity is estimated at around 5 million barrels per day. The United Arab Emirates has a similar system, the Abu Dhabi crude oil pipeline, which can move up to 1.5 to 1.8 million barrels per day directly to the Gulf of Oman. But here's the problem. Even combined, these alternatives can only handle a fraction of the total flow, not even close to replacing the 20 million barrels per day moving through the Strait of Hormuz. And many other pipeline projects? They've either been limited, politically blocked, or simply abandoned due to regional tensions. So we're left with a system that has massive global dependence, very few alternatives, and extremely high geopolitical risk. Which brings us to the real question. What does the future of the Strait of Hormuz look like? The honest answer is uncertain, because this isn't just about geography, it's about politics, it's about energy, and it's about power. And as long as the world continues to rely on oil at this scale, this narrow stretch of water will remain one of the most dangerous and most important places on Earth. Because sometimes, the most powerful point on the map is also the most vulnerable. I hope you enjoyed learning more about Hormuz Strait. If you did, please subscribe to my channel. If you want to watch more of my videos, click here. And thanks for watching. See you next time.